Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to be making an artwork using 1-point perspective. Perspective is when you give your viewers of your artwork a certain perspective and make it look like things are three-dimensional based on the way you draw the lines. In the case of 1-point perspective, all of our shapes will kind of vanish into 1 point in the center of our page. We're going to start by drawing a series of squares and rectangles around the outside of the page. If you have a ruler, it's a good idea to use that to help you get the shapes nice and straight. Or you could even trace objects that are square or rectangular. I am going to start drawing in a few of my shapes, and I'm going to make different sizes. I'm going to make some of them large, some of them small, some of them square, and some rectangular. You can also kind of pivot them at different angles. They don't have to be parallel with the edges of your page. Now, you'll notice that at first I'm kind of spreading them out and putting them all in different places. I almost even made kind of a circle. But I might go through and put some a little bit closer together to kind of fill in the gaps. And I'm being really careful to get them nice and square or rectangular. I'm trying really hard not to make them kind of wonky or crooked. And again, you can trace something or you can even use a ruler if that helps you. Once I've drawn quite a few on here, I'm going to create a point in the middle of my page, just a tiny little dot. And I'm going to use a ruler. For this part, you definitely need a straight edge. If you don't have a ruler, you could use the edge of a piece of cardboard or something else that's really straight and sturdy. And what I'm going to do is match up my ruler with the dot and the corner of my shape. And I want the corner that's closest to the dot first. And I'm just going to draw a line that connects. Now, I want to also get 2 more corners, and I'm going to do the 2 corners that are closest. So this one here, always ending at that dot. And now my corner up here is actually kind of off the page. You can't quite see it. So I'm going to imagine where it would be. And you can see that that creates a 3-dimensional shape. It looks like the shape is going back into space. I'm going to repeat that step for all of my shapes now. I want to get all the 3 corners that are closest to my dot. The only corner I won't get is the one that's pointing away. That side of the object we wouldn't actually see. Now you could absolutely draw this in pencil first, and that's probably a good idea for you guys, especially since it may be something you haven't done before. Now, I might get to a tricky space where some of my shapes might overlap. For example, these two. So I want to show you what to do in that case. I'm going to start with the shape that is closest to the dot first. Now, when I do this other shape, the lines are going to run into this first one, and that's okay. I'm still going to match my ruler up with the dot, and I'm still going to match it up with the corner, but I'm just going to stop my line here where it touches the other shape. And there's no place that that line would reappear, so that's all I have to do for this one. If there were a spot where you might see more of the line, I would just skip over and draw that in. So I'll continue to draw all of my lines. Now, you might notice on this shape, I only drew lines from two corners. This shape. I only drew lines from two corners. And that's because from this corner to the dot, you would see such a small amount. And I actually might be able to draw a little bit of that line in. But it's going to be probably touching a lot of the first line I drew. So there might be some shapes where you can only draw from two corners of your shape, especially if it's completely perpendicular to the dot. There might be shapes like that. And actually this one might be one of those shapes for me. If I were to draw a line from this corner to here, the entire line would be behind the shape I've already drawn in. Same for this side. So if a shape is like this, and the two lines come straight down, and there's no way to draw another line without crossing over, you'll just draw two lines. And it looks like I'm going to have the same thing on this shape. You guys might notice that when I'm doing the corner on the right side of the shape, I flip my ruler to the other side. And I do that because it helps me see my line better. And if you're left-handed, you might do the opposite. Don't think I'm going to get much of a side here, but I went ahead and drew that line anyway. All right. Now, once I've finished drawing the sides of my shapes here, I'm going to use the same Sharpie. Wow, that's cool. It looks like all the shapes are exploding out of that middle point. I'm going to use the Sharpie to add line designs to the insides of all my squares and rectangles. And you might want to kind of switch it up and do, different designs. But a cool way to start is just by drawing, diagonal lines and make your lines go in different directions. And I would encourage you to come up with maybe a different pattern for each of your squares and rectangles. So I might on one draw dotted lines and maybe zigzag lines on another, or spiral lines. Or you might even have some where you color in some of your shapes. But we'll keep all of these shapes black and white designs. It'll give us some really good contrast when we add color. We're going to add color to these sides here. I'm just trying to come up with something kind of interesting and different on each of my shapes, using just lines or shapes. All right. That is going to be where we stop for this week. And this project is going to be a 2-week project, so we will finish it next time.